Namaskar everyone and welcome today. 18. The journey of consciousness evolution, which we are on, we are programmed to evolve. The journey of consciousness evolution requires that we deepen the center of seeing. So much so that we are able to see every level of being clearly. We must be able to be mindful of or to be witnessing every level of being. So that's a marker. So the question to ask ourselves is, are we able to witness every level of being? Because if you can't, how are we going to evolve? If we don't understand the entirety of the journey from where we've come from and where we are going, how are we going to evolve? So necessarily, you need to have that ability of self-observation, self-introspection, self-analysis, self-reflection, to be able to see where you're centered inside and to see all the levels of being clearly, that you can observe your navigation process, your evolution process. And of course, you know that we are moving from the primal nature of the human, because we are occupying a human body. We are an occupant of this body. That's the first thing that we need to really understand and appreciate, that we are not the body, we are occupying this body. And as a result, our soul being, or quantum being, or light being, is experiencing is having a gross experience. And coupled with that, the animal nature of the body. So some of us tend to identify with it still, or we're not able to see the entirety of being. Some of us are caught up in the primal nature of the body's nature to pleasure, to be territorial, to seek food and shelter and the rest. And our minds can be totally preoccupied there. Now, we need to be able to observe self. And what is the marker for self? The ego. That self-consciousness is the ego. What is the ego? The infinite within us, operating in and through the limitation of a mind, a limitation of consciousness. The ego has the instrument beside itself. Let me rephrase that. The infinite consciousness has the ego as an instrument, has the mind as an instrument. Instrument means that in which it operates in and through. So it has the ego that it operates in, it has the mind that it operates in, and it has the thinking instrument. Well, that's the mind. It has the processing instrument of the mind, the intellect. So this needs to be clear in your consciousness if you are a true seeker who are ready for the journey. You need to be able to appreciate that your ego is an instrument in this journey. It's not who you are, although we tend to identify with it. Our mental self, our emotional self, our vital self, our physical self, we tend to identify with it, thinking we are that. So it's a great step in the journey when we evolve from that, when we realize that we are not the physical body. For example, we are not the primal nature. And without condemning the primal nature, we're able to see through and to be able to accept it and to be able to work in and through it. So that's a big step on the journey. And then our emotional nature, how human beings are so caught up in emotion, obsessed, their passions. the emotions of bitterness and anger and resentment and sadness and loneliness and all the rest, aggression. That's emotional nature. And then our mental nature is the thought space, where we are processing thoughts and where we develop the ideas of who we are. We have visions, concepts, beliefs. That's a mental space. And of course, that mental space has the ego, the sense of self, and that is associated with all the other levels. The infinite self is operating through the ego, associated with every other level. So it's expressing itself through every level, through the physical level, through the vital level of prana, through the emotional level, through the mental level, which involves the communication as well. So this infinite self is operating through all of these, using all of these instruments. And then the infinite self has powers that I have described. There's the power of knowledge, to gather knowledge, to learn, to appreciate, to understand, and to act from that. And it has the power of will to generate energy into space. And it has the power of action, to use the body actively. So, can you see the entirety of your being? It's a process every day to be able to really observe this and to improve your mindfulness. To expand your consciousness. We have spoken about that, to be able to observe the I, or ego, as an instrument. To be able to expand the consciousness and to have no judgment. To not label things and to have opinions, and because they can be misleading, because when we don't know the full truth of things, then we tend to operate in illusions of what we think the truth is. So this brings a question as well. Are we ready for the journey? Or before I go to that, I want you to reflect upon how marvelously the body is designed for the soul to act in and through. And you see it in the brain structure. We have what is called a triune brain. It has a reptilian part of it that really brings out the strong animal nature of survival, of reproduction, of pleasure, of being territorial, strong primal nature. And then we have what is called a limbic brain, emotional brain. So you can imagine if emotional brain, limbic brain, and reptilian brain are working together in low consciousness, what happens? And then the savior of all of these, what makes us really powerful as humans, is the upper brain, neocortex, where the intelligence function is. That's where we can really understand and appreciate the ego, and we can use the intellect. That's up in the upper brain. So the more conscious the soul becomes, the more it uses the upper brain. So that's why we meditate as humans. We want to access more and more of the upper brain. And so the ego functions a whole lot in its mental nature using the upper brain. Remember, brain is an instrument. The body is an instrument. So that the soul can manifest its intelligence in and through the body. And we have a brain where the soul can really understand itself and its nature through it while it's in the body. The brain has the capacity for that. And then the brain has the capacity for superconsciousness experiences, ecstasy in the inner space. So your brain is a marvelous structure. Not fully understood, but yet to be understood. But it's a marvelous, marvelous structure. So it's important to understand how much consciousness the soul is manifesting and how much it is using the brain in an evolved way. You see these leaders on the world stage, you're sure they're using limbic and reptilian brain. But it's all part of the karmic play because we're in a dark yuga. We're in Dwapara Yuga, where tamas and rajas, the soul qualities, are manifesting primarily. So the sattva quality of light is minimal in this yuga, but it's growing through the yuga. So let's come to the readiness now. To know your readiness, what preoccupies your mind? What preoccupies the ego mind every day? What thoughts hold your mind, grab your mind every day? Is it about food and taste? Is it about sexuality? Is it about dominance? All those three are lower chakras. Does that preoccupy your mind? If it does, then you still need to be in the world and to act in and through and learn from there. Is it your emotional nature that's associated with your primal nature? Or is it your emotional nature that is preoccupied with your higher mental nature? You know, when the passions are for learning and growing in the arts and really appreciating the beauty of life, that's emotion working with the higher mind. Then emotion can work with the lower mind. Where is your mind? Is it in the primal space? Is it in the lower emotional space? Is it in the higher space? Or is it occupied a whole lot with self-contemplation, wanting to improve yourself, wanting the ego to experience higher layers of consciousness, wanting to understand itself, who am I? What is your preoccupation? Therein you will see how ready you are for the contemplative journey. Remember, it's a play, so it's okay to be in the world, it's okay to manifest your passions. There should be no morality about that. You need to go where your heart is. The Christ said it very, very, very clearly. For where your treasure is, where your preoccupations are, there your heart will be also. Your preoccupations. And he says, for the seeker, lay not your treasures upon this world. Don't let your treasures be of this world, but let your treasures be of the heavenly space. And then you have heard the saying, you can't serve two masters at the same time. You can't want your cake and eat it too. You can't want all the pleasures of the world and want to be spiritually elevated at the same time. It doesn't work so like that. So this degree of self-analysis, introspecting as to what holds your preoccupation every day, will expose you to where you are. What is your mind occupied with all day? What are you taking up? What are you taking up with? Waiting for the lunch and dinners? Getting caught up in pleasuring, waiting for the next pleasure, the next excitement? There's nothing wrong with it. You're given the freedom to play the field. It's what you want. What is your desire? What is your desire, O soul? Is it to grow in consciousness? Is it to experience your deeper, refined nature? Or is it to accumulate more wealth in the world, more power in the world, have more pleasure in the world? What is your desire? That's where your thoughts will be. The Christ said it. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Where is your treasure? Where's your preoccupation? And when you're ready for the seeker's journey, you will develop a dispassion for the world. No, I don't need this. This is gross. I've had enough of this. That's when you know you develop in the seeker's consciousness. You develop that dispassion. Of course, you know these 4 Ds I speak about, right? Discrimination, dispassion, desire, and discipline. So when you really want to be the seeker, you need to be able to discriminate. When you're caught in the world, when you're taken up with a primal part of you, or when you're taken up in the refinement of your being, seeking more of your potential, seeking to expand the consciousness, know who you are. Because when you seek, you will find. And if you're tied to the world, that's what you will find. When you're tied to expansion and consciousness, knowing self, that's where you will find. The universe will bring everything for you. So let's assume that we are all seekers. And we're not so caught up in the primal nature all day. Let's assume that we are able to introspect and to observe ourselves. Let's assume that we have some degree of detachment from the world, that when we sit down here on our mat in our meditation, that we could switch off the world, turn off our senses from the world. Let the senses become passive, and let the inner thinking faculty, the manas, focus on the inside. Now, it is the chakras, it is the chakra awareness that help us to be able to see every level clearly. So necessarily we need to jump into subtle body awareness away from the gross body. And that's what I try to provide for you in the meditation, a field where you can make that jump, that leap into subtle body awareness. Because that's difficult to just process with the mind, intellect. You need to catch that from the field that has it. The field around great masters, or that field where noble seekers, dedicated seekers, co-create. That's the field that we are involved in. So, all levels need to be seen, perceived. We need to be able to really appreciate these chakras. And of course, like I've said, if you don't yet see them, aspire, let your desire grow to see them. And then follow all the practices given by masters as to weigh the possibilities until you bring them into reality and have your own experience. So we need to be able to observe all the levels of being that is primary in the journey. The ego needs to be in the stage where it needs to know itself. So what I try to inspire you to do continuously is to begin to self-observe, begin to appreciate every level of being, begin to understand them, and begin to explore. That's what I try to inspire in you continuously. So in our meditation today, that's what I would like you to observe. Try to see where your preoccupations are. where the tendencies of your mind is, the tendencies of the mind are, where your power is to detach from the world, to focus, to expand, where your power lies. Begin to see what power is being awakened in your soul, and begin to develop that power more and more. The desire, finding the edge, working with the intuition. That's how you'll develop that power more and more. So, let's go into our silent period. I want you to catch it in there. I want you to reflect on what I have said. I'm going to assume that we are all seekers. We are all ready for the next step. And I'm going to assume that your mind is going to be able to catch the energy of the space. I'm going to assume that your ego is in a growth path. And every session of meditation will take you deeper. I'm going to assume that when you come out of this meditation, that you are more stable, that you're more inspired, that you're stronger. Make my assumptions come true. Give me purpose. Fulfill the purpose of my presence with you. You have my best wishes with you as you enter the inner space. And you know, I'm with you in the inner space. The me is so much more than a body. When I sit inside, I actually sit together with all of you. I don't have to necessarily see you. I simply have to center inside, and I feel the expansiveness of the inner space where all of you are connecting with me. That's a joy. So always in my meditation, I don't only focus on the local, but I focus on the non-local, which means I'm holding you in my space. You know the meditation process, so let's go with it. Let's slowly return to body consciousness. Revitalize the senses through breathing. Bring more oxygen into your lungs. Ensuring that your body is happy whilst you're doing it. Ensuring you breathe with every level of being. Using the belly, the chest, the shoulders. And then we do the Om sound. Breathing out through the mouth and in through the nose. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. As you enter into a day of activity today, let us observe where our energies predominate. Is it the emotional area, mental area, core area, or physical area? Observe where you're taking up and observe where your thoughts are taking up. Observe what consumes your ego. You should learn a lot from that. But the seeker would want to ensure that it learns and grows from every experience. It would use the world as a place where it can grow. evolve in their consciousness. So are you trying to expand your consciousness whilst in your activity? Are you trying to manifest more and more of a deeper space within you, your sattvic nature? Of course, activity means rajas, quality, and trying to move away from the tamas that holds us down, holds the mind down, holds the emotional area down, holds the body down. Begin to observe the tamas quality of prakriti, of nature, being able to use the rajas quality wisely, constructively, to grow, noble intent, sattvic intent, and be able to grow into sattva quality, peacefulness and kindness and compassion and love, forgiveness. All these are sattvic qualities, nobility. Observe where you're driven today. It should be quite an interesting exploration. It will tell a lot. And be true to yourself. Of course, I'd be eager to look at your journals and be aware that I'm reading your journals. I may not reply with a word yet, but I'm replying in my inner space because I love reading them. I learn a lot about what's happening inside of you. And in that I hold you. I follow your journey. It's beautiful this particular year where I can read the journals, so I don't have to wait for a conversation to know about you and what you're going through. The journals tell me everything. And there I can communicate with you. So look at activity carefully. And remember, the goal is mindfulness, growing in self-awareness, seeking to be better than you are today than yesterday. Staying fully in the moment, not letting yourself be bogged down by the past and what you would have done, may have done in lower consciousness. The you of today is not the you of yesterday or last year. So why are you worrying about those patterns of the past? They were you in a different level of consciousness. This is you in a new level of consciousness. You can wake up with a whole new realization and be acting differently today. In a moment's time, you can have a shift in consciousness that changes your life forever. So one cannot tell what will happen in a moment. There's an enlightened person who was a shoemaker, and he was just looking at a crease when the door is open, the little space where the door is hinged, and the sunlight is coming through. And the light, this person had amazing realizations in a moment. And even Einstein, when he used to be riding the buses, he would looking at the street lights and how they are functioning, and whole new ideas came to his mind. Or Tesla, looking at the lightning. And why can't we transfer electricity like that? Amazing lives of Einstein and Tesla. In a moment, their world shifted. So too, in a moment, your world can shift. Be open to the moment. Realize that it can happen anytime, anywhere, any place. And your world of activity should be compatible with your sitting meditation. What you do here should influence your world, and what happens in your world should influence this. You should grow continuously. That's what this lifetime is all about. And remember, lifetime is only a time period when you were given this body, and in that time period, the body has to go. But you don't have to go anywhere. You're not going to go anywhere. The body's going to go dust to dust, ashes to ashes, but you're not going to go anywhere. You're going to uncover more and more of your light. You're a light being. You're not going anywhere. So as you watch your body aging, don't get caught in what's happening to the body. Identify with your inner nature that's immortal. Immortal. Amritam. Mahamritat. Triambaka mantra, Mahamrityunjaya says, don't withhold from me immortality. Don't withhold from me immortality. Mahamritat. And the Upanishad, Mrichurma Amritam Gamaya. Take me away from this timeline of mortal consciousness. Let me experience my soul's immortality. And Gayatri, Dhiyona Prachurayad. Let my mind expand in the light. Let my intellect be in the light. Dhiyona Prachurayad. What lovely mantras that we can inspire to. Have a blessed day, everyone. May your soul grow in its light being, in its immortal consciousness. Namaskar.